Namo Narayan. Welcome. Namo Narayan, everybody. So great to have you back. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for another class. This class is on a very special topic that I think is incredibly important, and I'm looking forward to sharing this information with you. But before we get started here, I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today. And I am going to be changing the time for this class 2 hours later because there is a lot of construction happening right now. There's construction happening right next door in my lot, and that ends 2 hours later than when we had previously decided to join. So for that reason, instead of starting at 12 o'clock p.m., we'll be starting all these Wednesday classes from here on out at 2 o'clock p.m., 2 hours later. And it's actually going to be 10 minutes after 2 p.m. And so wherever you're at in the world, for example, I'm actually on the in Santo Domingo time because I live in the Dominican Republic. And so I am here at 6 o'clock, 12 minutes past 6 p.m. And the reason we've had to change is because there's a construction site happening right next door to me, and it would be too loud for you. I've been able to internalize it, and it doesn't bother me anymore. A year ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that, everybody. But because of Antar Mona, I have learned how to be able to embrace all sounds, even a construction site, and it doesn't bother me. I can meditate right next to a construction site, no problem. And you can do that too when you learn Antar Mona. So, Namo Narayan, Josh, welcome from Alaska. Thank you for being here. Namo Narayan, everybody. For those of you tuning in, you can let me know if you're where you're from. That's nice to be able to share. Thank you for that, Josh. And also, if you are able to see the slide that's up, and hopefully the audio quality is okay. This is my first time broadcasting from my new location here. I've recently moved thanks to your help. Really, I owe a huge thank you to my YouTube audience because you guys, you helped me to be able to make the move last week. I desperately came on, I was asking for contributions, and you guys made it happen. Really, I'm not exaggerating this. It came down to the last person. Each and every single person that contributed last week, you were all a part of helping me make that move. I literally had $50 left over afterwards. So thank you, everybody. Today's class is a topic that is very important. Learning how to be able to access the same desire, the same pleasure that you derive from your external desires, whether if it's a substance or if it's something more psychological, or if it's food, all sorts of different addictions that we have in the world. And through Yoga Nidra and through meditation and through Kriya Yoga and Mahamudra, we can learn how to internalize pleasure. And we learn that, first of all, the pleasure that we are seeking in the world is only derived from within. Things like bliss, joy, serenity, tranquility, these are peace. These are all qualities of yourself. And when we gratify a desire, the mind becomes silent long enough for you to be able to experience in that silence your own bliss. But we think it's coming from the objects of the senses. We think it's coming from gratifying our desires in the world outside of us, because all of our thoughts are oriented around fulfilling a desire. So when you fulfill that desire, your mind becomes silent for just a moment before the next desire comes on. But in that silence of satisfaction, when you get what you finally want, that joy, that bliss, that serenity, that tranquility is actually your own quality that you're enjoying, not the objects of the senses, right? So that's the mistake, is that we think that this joy, this satisfaction, this serenity is actually coming from the object, whether if it's a drug or even something that's not that bad. For instance, marijuana or all sorts of things. I personally believe that it's very important for us as a species that we do expand our awareness and explore consciousness using these sacred substances. However, there is a fine line between expanding and discovering and exploring versus trying to escape reality. And when we use these substances and these things as a crutch, that's when it becomes a big problem. And so we hear that phrase a lot, then these substances, or even binge watching or eating or sex or so many things become an addiction for us. And we hear that phrase and they're used like a crutch. Well, a crutch for what, right? A crutch for actually that source of joy that is derived only from within. During yoga nidra, during any kind of meditation, your mind becomes silent long enough for you to be able to experience the qualities of your own true nature. Isn't that right? So things like heat and light are the natural qualities of fire. So too, your natural qualities are things like bliss, serenity, tranquility, joy. We don't have to go searching in the world outside for these things. What happens is that we associate desire when we are experiencing bliss and joy. We associate that with whatever we were currently using to get us there, whatever crutch that might have been. So now you think then the marijuana is your source of serenity, and you think the marijuana is the source of your bliss and is the source of your satisfaction and contentment. And without that, you cannot be content and serene, or maybe not as much. So what we can do, and this is pretty cool, this is where the neuroplasticity comes in. What we can do is through yoga nidra, we can go within and you can visualize yourself enjoying that pleasure out in the world and actually get yourself to feel even greater effects, even more of feelings, and even your body can respond. You can get yourself into those same states, even those euphoric states. You can actually get yourself to the same state without the drug, without the substance, through just utilizing the mind. And when that happens, when you can go into yoga nidra, or you can go into any meditation and you can experience that same level of bliss and joy and satisfaction and contentment within, that which you had previously had to rely on some substance for, that is game changing. It's huge. It's paradigm changing. Your inner intelligence figures out, aha, if I can create these sensations, even of euphoria, at will, therefore, ergo, I don't have to rely on the substances. And how much deeper can we go? How much better can it get? What is the full potential here? And in yoga nidra, you can end up using this as like a, not only as your theme of meditation, but as your psychic symbol even. So you're keeping the mind occupied by utilizing your obsession. Instead of seeing your obsession as an obstacle, instead of seeing your vice as an obstacle, learn how to harness it, learn how to use it, learn how to now use that to concentrate and focus your mind and lead yourself deeper within to discovering that level of bliss and joy within your own self. And because everything it's just energy, and energy is neutral. So if we are projecting some meaning onto that, then it becomes good or bad. But if we can just take that pure desire, that pure raw desire, and instead of chasing it outwards into the world, which is pravriti, we can turn our focus within, introverting our desire, not just introverting our awareness, We talk about the introversion of awareness, withdrawing the senses, right? What is the Sanskrit word? It's one of the 8 limbs. What is the Sanskrit word for sensory withdrawal, students? The Sanskrit word for sensory withdrawal is pratyahara, right? And it is the 5th limb, I believe, in Patanjali's 8-limbed yoga. This is not merely turning our awareness within or our senses within, but really what we're talking about right now is turning your desire within, learning to internalize desire. There is a much greater bliss within your own heart, a much more profound level of bliss than is the source of permanent joy, joy that can never be taken away from you. It is your own true nature. We must first develop awareness of and then become established in the permanent awareness to that inner bliss that is yours, that is you. And that is what nivritti means. So there's 2 options, pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti is externalization of the senses, external orientation towards desire. If you understand Samkhya Darshan, Samkhya philosophy, think of it as going from Purusha outwards to the objects of the senses. Nivritti is just the opposite. It's going from the objects of the senses inwards back to spirit, inwards back to soul. That is nivritti. It is internal orientation of desire. According to Tantra, desire is actually the most fundamental, essential quality that is responsible for our existence. It is at the very root of our existence. You exist because of some existential desire that you have. And so desire is the first incentive. It's that first flash. From desire comes thought. From thought comes action. But it all starts with desire. And so by internalizing our desire, you do come to discover a source of pleasure within your own heart that is 24 carats. It's perennial. It's unalloyed. It can never be stained. It can never be taken from you. It can never be pierced. That inner source of joy and bliss is what we first have to become established in. And then the world is yours. Then you can continue enjoying the world and you can continue to have your family life and your career and your different other ways of what I call artificial relaxation. Artificial relaxation in comparison to true relaxation, which is when you're experiencing your own true nature during yoga nidra or meditation. So nivritti, turning our awareness within, discovering that bliss. This is one of the outcomes of a constant, a regular practice of meditation and yoga nidra. Nama Narayan, welcome. Those of you who just came in, it's a great honor to have you here. And I just want to thank my YouTube community with all my heart, because thanks to you, I was able to make my goal. I had a very steep benchmark. And last week I was requesting your assistance. And because of you, and I really do mean it, I couldn't have spared even one sign up. Because of all of you, I was able to meet my goals and I moved. Now I'm in my new house. Right now, there's a little bit more dog barking than usual. I hope that's not bothering you. But we also changed the time for this live class 2 hours later because there's construction happening in the lot right next door, ladies and gentlemen. And even though it doesn't bother me, I've learned how to meditate, even with that kind of loud pounding right next door. I can still meditate with that because of Antarmona. You can too, using Antarmona. The very first stage in Antarmona is externalizing your senses. and listening to all the sounds, because we cannot push them away. Anything you push away will just chase you and bother you and continue to annoy you. Therefore, the only other option you really have is to embrace it fully and radically. And a little key on how to do that, we have to dissociate from it. We have to dissociate from our own thoughts on the source of these sounds. Act as if you were just dropped on this planet from outer space, and this was your first few moments here, and you have no idea what the source of these sounds are. You just listen to the raw qualities of the sounds in and of themselves, and then your mind becomes disinterested in it. If you try to ignore it and you try to block it out, it will always disturb you, and it will always come and prevent you from being able to have a deep meditation. But if instead first you can embrace it fully, right? This is the idea that we talk about in Antarmona. Antarmona teaches radical tolerance, where we go beyond just tolerating something to embracing everything. And it's only by embracing everything that you can transcend everything. So what we're talking about here is internalizing our pleasure. Learning how to be able to find the same level of pleasure that you're previously getting from perhaps harmful addictions internally, through meditation, through introversion of your focus, through introversion of your senses, and introversion of desire. By turning our focus within, a much deeper and permanent source of pleasure is discovered. You know, this is happening on all levels. There's even the bindu within can explode, and you can experience the same kind of experience during orgasm, which is that is what an orgasm is the bindu exploding. The energy builds up, builds up, builds up within this point. The point literally is the bindu. When the energy is concentrated within the bindu, within the single point, then there's this explosion that occurs much like fission, very similar to fission. There's this detonation that occurs. That is the orgasm. And within, you can also experience this detonation of the bindu during meditation, and it's 1,000 times stronger. Those of you who have experienced this, you can maybe add your comment. Let us know how you have experienced that. So there is, this is just a free class. Nama Narayan, welcome, the drip. This is just a free class I do every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I have a free class for you, and it usually starts 12 p.m., but now it's starting 2 p.m., so 2 hours later. Anyway, wherever you are at, it started exactly half an hour ago, so just remember that time for next week. And I have moved to my new house. Thank you to my students. Thank you to my YouTube audience, and I will return the favor by offering you such great raw content. This is not scripted. I have the slide that I've made up for you with these main principles that we're talking about, but I just want to speak with you just raw and real, because this is the idea. I have this as an idea for an upcoming series of Yoga Nidra, for your benefit, free on this channel, that will be titled Yoga Nidra Naturally High. And probably the first one will be marijuana addictions, and then we'll go into alcohol addictions, and then I'll wait for your feedback, and we'll see where we go from there. But the idea is you can visualize, you can go into Yoga Nidra, and when you're in that state of such deep relaxation, then you can visualize yourself indulging in your addiction, and actually getting yourself to feel that pleasure, derive that same sense of pleasure, but you did not actually use the physical substance. This is all happening because your mind is so powerful. And then what happens is a very important realization occurs on the level of buddhi. Where is buddhi? For those of you who have taken my classes, we talk a lot about buddhi. Buddhi is the third element in the 25 elements of Samkhya. Buddhi is the intellect. This is the intelligence of the soul that is learning and growing and becoming enlightened. On that level of the intelligence of the soul, you figure out that you don't have to derive this pleasure only from the objects of the senses. You can get the same level of pleasure naturally from within during meditation, during yoga nidra, or even when you introvert your awareness. You can do it very quickly. You don't even have to go into a full yoga nidra session with all the 8 steps. You can, especially if you learn Mahamudra, if you learn Kriya Yoga, Kriya Yoga, you can, in the course of one breath, using the mudras, visualizing yourself. So, for example, right now, we will combine Mahamudra with visualizing yourself smoking marijuana. And the practice of Kriya Yoga is basically you are inhaling, visualizing energy going up the spine, from the base of the spine, the region of Muladhara, up past the heart to the brow center, the region of Agya Chakra. And then when you exhale, you release. And that energy, that Shakti, unfolds all around you. It expands outwards all around you, drawing down, attracting the pure white light of Shiva. And during the exhalation, the pure white light of Shiva descends through the spine in a downwards motion. So inhaling up Shakti and your energy, and directing your energy with the breath, and using these mudras to first squeeze at the perineum, then squeeze at the abdomen, then up into the throat, blocking the throat. Very basic Mahamudra. And then what you do, so first let's go ahead and do that a few times. Go ahead and inhale, visualizing energy ascending through the spine from Muladhara up to the brow center. Exhale, expand, and feel a column of white light descending from above through the spine back down to Muladhara. Inhale up, directing your Shakti up through the spine. Inhaling, using the muscles, contracting the different muscles in the body to push that energy up, feeling it piercing the chakras, piercing the heart chakra, directly back from the sternum, coming up into the head at the top of the inhalation, where you feel that energy build, 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 concentrating, building in the bindu. The energy is building up at a single point at the brow center, at the bindu, and then you exhale, sending it through the bindu, which is actually right above Agya, sending it out, and then Shiva energy is drawn down. The Shiva energy is a passive part. You're attracting Shiva, you're attracting consciousness, whereas Shakti is an active part, where you are doing this active process of raising your energy up. Energy and consciousness. Energy is the active principle, consciousness is the passive principle. Inhalation is the active part, using all these bandhas, using all these mudras, and the exhalation is the passive part, where you just relax and you visualize that this column of white light is descending from above. That's just a quick crash course to Kriya Yoga. Now, let's combine that with visualizing that, for example, maybe you will drink a glass of wine, or a glass of beer, or whatever it might be. And if you don't have any vice like that, just leave it and just consider this the potential that it has for people who do have these kinds of addictions, okay? So let's say that you have a marijuana cigarette in your fingers, right? And as you inhale, drawing the energy up, you can visualize that you're inhaling, taking in the smoke of the cannabis. And then as you exhale, surrendering, releasing, expanding, you're also exhaling out the smoke. Now from this, you will start to experience a certain amount of ecstasy, a certain amount of bliss. And just learning how to build up energy like this, building it at the bindu, and then releasing it, it's like a tiny orgasm every time you do it. And when you get good at Kriya Yoga, you can have very profound inner explosions of the bindu, which can be extremely powerful, extremely potent. And then that ecstasy that you're experiencing there, you're associating it now to your own pleasure, it's your own quality. So now you're taking the same addiction, the same pleasure that you may have had, in this case for cannabis, and through your visualization, you're learning to associate it to your own bliss, your own joy that you derive from within. This is the concept. Let me know what you think. My idea is that this can be a nice little series for people who are suffering, or maybe not suffering, because, sometimes people need something like that, and it's maybe not so bad as long as you can have moderation. But that's really difficult, the moderation part, isn't it? So I'm not trying to take something away from you. I'm not trying to guilt trip you. We all have our crutches, all of us. Might not be a substance for other people, maybe it's something else. But this is a way to be able to figure out and help yourself learn the source of that. All pleasure, not just that, but all pleasure is first and foremost derived from within. The whole world is a long string of zeros, and it doesn't mean anything until you get the one, that oneness with yourself. And then it is like, little doggy is trying to come in through the door here, and my cat doesn't like that. So we first find that inner oneness, and then all that string of zeros means something. Nothing in the world means anything until you can find that satisfaction and joy and bliss within yourself, because it's you. It doesn't come from the objects of the senses. So this is a short class today. I'm going to finish this class with a little story, a little analogy. So the story is of a dog, and the dog has found a bone. What a happy dog it was. And it would take its bone, it would hide somewhere where it couldn't be found. And you know what dogs like to do with bones, right? Yes, they like to bury the bones, or they like to chew on the bones. Well, this dog, he preferred to chew, and chew he did. And the more that he chewed on the bone, the more the bone slowly started to splinter. And tiny little splinters from the bone would start to cut his gums. And pretty soon, the dog was tasting blood coming from the bone. And the more that he tasted this blood coming from the bone, the more he thought that the blood was coming from the bone, the more he started to chew and chew and chew. And the more he chewed, the more that it splintered, and the more that it splintered, the more that it cut the dog. And all this time, the taste of pleasure that the dog was getting from the bone and from the splintering of the bone that he was chewing, thinking that it was actually the bone, it was actually his own, to his detriment. And in many, many, many ways, we are no different than that dog. In many ways, we are deriving satisfaction and contentment from things outside in the world, which are really just a catalyst. They're just allowing us to actually feel that within. Because when you finally gratify one of our physical desires in the world, the mind becomes silent for a small time, right? Because if you observe correctly, you'll see all thoughts are actually orbiting around a desire. All thoughts are motivating you, encouraging you to take action in order to gratify a desire. So everything that we do, it's all centered around a desire, all thoughts. Therefore, when you actually get your desire, when you actually achieve your desire, here comes a truck. Can you guys hear it? We're going to keep going because we don't care. The truck is going to pass. When you actually achieve your desire, then the mind becomes silent because it got what it wanted. So when you are having the joint, or when you are taking a sip from the wine, or you're having that slice of pizza, or whatever it might be, When you're in the act, then the mind becomes silent because it gets what it wants. And in that silence, you experience bliss, joy. And you think that that bliss and you think that that joy is coming from the object that you are indulging in. But really, that bliss and that joy can be found in silence anytime. Just silencing your mind, stilling the body, silencing the mind, practicing yoga nidra, antarmona, kriya yoga, or just nivritti, just internalizing your focus. We can do that eventually in a split second. And that is the true source of everything that we're looking for out in the world. And when you get that, you become fearless, you become unmanipulatable. People cannot manipulate you for their own ends. You're no longer resonating at that bandwidth of fear because you've got everything that you need from within. And when you're no longer operating at that bandwidth of fear, if we could just get 3% of the population off that bandwidth of fear, we could revolutionize society. We could revolutionize our society, reclaim our society for us, for the common good of the common person, of the people, not the single elite, right? For the betterment of all, not the few. So anyway, thank you everybody so much for your endless support and your encouragements. The next class, or actually next meditation, will be released on this channel Sunday night. There will be another YouTube. And we will be getting back into regular YouTube classes every single Sunday night. Continuing from here, now that I have completed the move, there's been a lot of noise in the last 40 minutes since I've done this live broadcast, but it's usually not this loud, you guys. But anyway, any final questions? I will hang out here for just another minute, just because I know it takes a while for questions to come through the software and everything. But this is the idea of an upcoming series, a Yoga Nidra series that will be titled Yoga Nidra Naturally High. And we will be able to start to make positive associations. We'll be able to take that momentum that you have right now for whatever your desire is, whatever your current desire or vice is. What if you could harness that and use it for meditation? What if you could use that, turn that into a symbol inside to visualize, because it captures your attention so well, doesn't it? You can capture your attention with your obsession and use that for your symbol. Use that to keep your mind one-pointed in Yoga Nidra, so that you can end up going much deeper and eventually experiencing much deeper bliss and joy within, so that you don't need that external crutch anymore. But use it in the beginning. You turn it into a symbol, whatever your obsession, whatever your vice may be, and focus on it during meditation and Yoga Nidra. So then your mind can stay one-pointed, excluding any other thought from being able to come into your mind. Harness that energy that you have for this certain desire and just internalize it, introvert it. Instead of following desire outside of us, follow it within. The drip says, did you hear about the Buddhist monks on meth? No, have not heard about Buddhist monks on meth. It kind of reminds me of an interesting story though. My Guruji, Swami Niranjan, went to prove that sleep is only a vritti. It's only a modification of the mind. It's not our natural state. And to prove this, he went without sleep for a whole week successfully. And for example, if you read in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, they were all defrocked. Yeah, sounds about right. if you read in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, you'll see that there are 5 different kinds of vrittis. One of those types of vrittis is sleep. And so in order to prove this, my Guruji went a whole week without sleep. And if you could imagine how much witness consciousness you would need to have, how much sakshibhav, how much focus, how much concentration you would need to have to be able to avoid going nuts, from going just crazy. You would need to have so much concentration and presence and focus and witness consciousness. So it just made me think about it because you mentioned Buddhist monks on meth, and they don't sleep, and they would obviously be battling with their psyche, not going crazy. That's what I imagine anyway. But I hear about so many monks and religious teachers who are still addicted to drugs and alcohol. What do you think is happening to them? Well, first of all, everybody, I think it's really important. Oh, Amish, Namanarayan, bro. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. Amish, so when it comes to so many other religious teachers and things doing drugs and alcohol, I think that one thing that's really important to remember is that we all have something that we use as a crutch. So I would avoid passing blame. Of course, when they are a religious or spiritual teacher, it's hard for us to accept that, but really take a minute and analyze. I would say you should know them personally. Don't just use that as an excuse to dismiss them. You should know them personally. In some forms of Tantra, for example, in Vama Marg, alcohol is actually offered during puja. They will actually, I've known of tantrics. I know tantrics who offer whiskey in their puja, and they actually take a little as well. Of course, that's very different than going to the bar every night and getting hammered, right? That's very different. Our Guruji, our Bede Baba Guruji, Swami Shivananda, what he said was little bit, right? Everything in moderation. You can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Even if you want to have meat, even if you want to have your alcohol, right? A little bit, even if you still want to have whatever, you can have it, but have it in moderation. I think that we need to be extremely realistic, because there is a spiritual awakening happening right now on planet Earth. Thank God, because boy, do we ever need it right now. It's like our only hope is that we all wake up and stop being controlled and manipulated by fear. And part of this spiritual awakening is, I believe, that we have to give each other the grace to be human. We have to extend to each other that grace of knowing that sometimes people that you respect aren't always going to live up to your standards. They are human too. They're still here going through their own karma. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here, right? And ultimately, really, my opinion on spiritual teachers and gurus and these kinds of people is, what I learned in the ashram is that your opinion of your guru, what if you think that your guru is just a man or a woman, or if you think that they are God, they think that they are actually your Ishta Devata, your personal chosen form of the divine, whatever you want, or you think that they're a fraud. You don't believe in gurus. You think they're all frauds. Whatever you believe, it is a projection of your own devotion. It is your own devotion that liberates you, not the object of devotion. Can we get that? That's a really important concept to understand, everybody. It is your own efforts. You could have the greatest guru in the world who's totally authentic, 100% genuine and sincere. But if you don't have the devotion, and if you don't have the discipline, and you don't have the sincerity, you will not gain from them. Therefore, and this is also something Swami Shivananda said. Swami Shivananda said, your guru can be the biggest rogue in the world. They could be a total rogue. They could be eating meat and drinking alcohol and all that stuff. It is your devotion that liberates you. And this is a beautiful concept, because then you can find that liberation through your spouse. you can find that same level of spiritual liberation through your child. You can see your wife as Parvati, or your wife can see her husband as Shiva. And through that devotion, you can reach total liberation. So it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if they might do some drugs or they might do some alcohol. If they have some attainment, then I respect. If I can see that they've attained some level of spiritual bliss, of surrender, of serenity, of loving kindness, right? If I can see that in them, then I will listen to them. And because when it comes to truth, we recognize truth, right? Excuse me. We recognize truth because there's a part of you that is truth. You recognize truth when you hear it. Doesn't matter if it comes from a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Christian or a Muslim or anybody or an atheist. Doesn't matter. You recognize truth when you hear it because there's a part of you that is truth. There's a recognition, isn't there? When you hear something, we go, ah, yeah. It rings a bell within you. It strikes a chord, right? Because there's a part of you that is pure, eternal truth. And so if I see that in somebody, then they can be smoking cannabis. They can be married. They can be all sorts of things. Then at first, why would you do that? But whatever, I'm not going to judge them because, first of all, I respect that at a certain attainment in them. That's what drew me to them to begin with. And second of all, it is my own efforts that I really need to watch and I really need to focus on. It is my own sincerity. It is my own genuineness. I don't have to be careful of whether you're being false or not. I need to be careful of whether I'm being false or not. It is a sin to deceive, not to be deceived. And I do not derive my purpose nor my pleasure from the world itself. My purpose and my pleasure is derived from within. I have nothing to lose in this world, right? And so it doesn't really matter to me. This world is karma bhumi. Do you guys understand the concept of karma bhumi? I know you do. I know that there's certain ones of you who understand karma bhumi. Vegito, eternity. I'll get to your question in a second. I love what you just wrote. I'll get right back to you, but let's just finish this idea of karma bhumi. Karma bhumi is the name given to planet Earth in Hindu circles. And what it implies is this is the land to perform karmic actions. This is the dimension to perform karma. This is the place to do work. Karma literally means action or work. We came here to work. When you go to the workplace, that's not where you go to get pleasure. You get pleasure when you come back home. Our home is the heart. Our home is within ourselves, not out in the world. This is the workplace. We have some karma to do here in the world. We have some higher spiritual purpose. You came here for a reason. You came here for a purpose. You knew the world events that are occurring now would happen. You knew. You don't remember all this because you wouldn't be able to do your work if you remembered all of your lifetimes. But you came here purposefully, willfully, with a cause, something to get done. And as long as we're trying to derive pleasure out in the world, we are like that dog who's biting the bone, tasting the blood, thinking it's coming from the bone. We're like the dog chasing its own tail. We have to first and foremost derive that joy and pleasure and satisfaction from within. And then the world is, you're not bothered by the world so much. You're not relying on the world for your base level of satisfaction. And now you can do what you have to do. You can get your work done. You can complete your purpose for coming here and having a body. Vegito, any way to purchase your course or your teachings? Everything right now is on tripurayoga.org. I'll write that into the chat for you. If you go to Tripura Yoga, what's coming up is there's a teacher's training coming up, and there is Antarmona 6 months. The 6-month course only starts every 6 months. And that's also coming up. All this is coming up in January. There's nothing on the site right now, but there will be very soon. Thank you for asking so much. You also, Vegito Eternity, any way to contact you? Yes, I think that you've tried, and I've seen your emails. I've been in the process of moving, as many of you know, because you assisted me to be able to move. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm so very grateful for everything that you did. Everybody who even gave a tiny contribution. I really mean it. It was that tight. Every single person's contribution last week helped me to be able to move. I'm so grateful. Each and every one of you. Thank you so much to all of you. I could not have spared one. With great love and respect. I'm so grateful for my YouTube listeners. You got me through. You were there for me. And I'm going to now return the favor to you by generating awesome content and making this a full-time job. Now that I've moved, I've downsized, I've minimalized my life, I've made my life a lot more simple and more affordable. And I can focus now more on this, on Tripura Yoga, which is my real passion, as some of you can tell. So, Sadhguru said this is Dwapara Yuga, not Kali Yuga. What are your opinions? I think this is Kali Yuga. I think that if you look at what has been said by most spiritual teachers, if you look at what has been written about in like Bhagavad Gita, right? When did Kali Yuga start? Kali Yuga started when? When did Kali Yuga start? Trivia question. Da, 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 da. When did Kali Yuga start? Kali Yuga. Yes, I agree. It is Kali Yuga. There's so many things. What it says Kali Yuga is supposed to be, this is what we're seeing in the world today, where there's all the legs of Dharma have been kicked out. There's 4 legs of Dharma, and pretty much they've all been kicked out by now, and we live in an extremely unrighteous era. So isn't it when Krishna died? Isn't that what they say? Then the Kali Yuga began when Krishna left the earth. So whenever Krishna left the earth, I think then a lot of people say that could have been like 5,000 years ago or something like that, or maybe 5,000 BC, so 7,000 years ago. But whenever the war of the Mahabharata was, and Krishna left the earth, that was the beginning of Kali Yuga. And when will Kali Yuga end? We're waiting for one more avatar to come back. That is Kalki. When Kalki comes back, Kali Yuga ends. There's a lot of similarities with Christianity in that sense. We're talking about Vaishnavism, by the way. I'm actually a Shaivite myself personally. I love Shiva and my lineage, my gurus, we all are Shaivites, but we're the whole idea of Krishna, Rama, Kalki, yes. Would be more of the Vaishnava Dharma. Guruji, Sadhguru also said our solar system revolves around a super sun. And when we are near the super sun, humans get intellectual, and when it's far, humans' intelligence declines. Well, there is some writings, I don't remember where it is, but there is a lot that's said of a sun behind our sun. And so, for example, some people believe that when you leave this body, you have to go through the sun to get to the other dimension, to get to the next dimension. And there might be something to that. However, my focus is more extremely practical, down to earth. I'm really, this stuff does interest me. Don't get me wrong, Vegito, it does. And I study astrology and I study all this stuff, but especially here on this channel, my focus is really more on practical. Like, let's get enlightened. Let's wake up to our true nature. Let's remember who we really are. Let's become established in permanent awareness of our truth so that we can not be manipulated by fear, and so that we can do what we came here to do, so that we can achieve our mula sankalpa, our core life purpose. And let's talk about, getting healthy, getting well again, how we can heal, how we can take our suffering and resolve it, and take those things that we are obsessing on and internalize that, use that instead of thinking that it's something bad that needs to be repressed and hidden away. Bring it to the forefront of your psyche and use it as a tool for being able to concentrate the mind, allow the mind to become one-pointed and experience that bliss within. Because all you have to do is silence the mind, and that bliss is there. And this is kind of a tantric approach. Tantra says nothing is taboo, right? In Tantra, nothing is taboo. We can use sex, we can use wine, we can use meat, we can use anything, because the ultimate goal is like, imagine if you were asleep, you were stuck in a dream. You know you're stuck in a dream, and you're trying to figure out how you can wake up again. You desperately want to wake up, but you know you're stuck in a dream. Wouldn't you be willing to do anything at that point in that dream reality? Wouldn't you pretty much be willing to do whatever it took to get your real self to wake up? So that's also that's the approach in Tantra. It's not just sensual indulgence. It's not just sacred sex. It's not just learning how to make your sex life even better, even though that's fine. That's great. If that's your focus, and that's what you need right now, start there. But you will eventually end up finding something deeper that may lead you to transcend those externalized desires. Because we can use these things as a tool for focusing on ourselves, for going into a trance or a sacred state. And yes, so all of the sacred different traditions are pretty much saying the same thing, Vejito. Then we are all a part of God, right? Then God is experiencing himself through us. What I really love about the Shiva Dharma, Shaivism, is then God is expressed as consciousness. God is seen as being consciousness, right? Consciousness, therefore, is a universal principle. Instead of seeing consciousness as something that's generated or manufactured by the brain, instead we see the brain as being like an antenna that receives and transmits consciousness. Our whole nervous system receives and transmits universal consciousness. So to the extent that the organism has an advanced, evolved nervous system, however advanced and developed the nervous system is, that's how much universal consciousness it can manifest, right? So in that sense, God is like that principle of universal consciousness, and we are all experiencing God through us, as us. You are God. You are what God is doing right now. God experiences himself through you, as you. You are what God is doing. And without sentient beings, and without intelligent life, and without all these different forms of life that harness consciousness, there can be no God. Or at least God is a static principle. It's there, but it has no way of knowing itself. It has no way of experiencing itself. It's dormant. It's completely dormant. It is creation. It is Shakti's play. It is the play of inner energy and matter and mind that creates a mirror for that universal consciousness to be able to experience itself. And where human beings come into this, and this is what's most exciting to me, what's so exciting about being a human being, is that it is in a human being that that universal principle of consciousness can fully realize itself. And instead of you identifying with being a body, and instead of you identify with you being a human being, you identify with being universal consciousness. So Shiva, and in this tense, I'm defining Shiva as universal consciousness. Shiva experiences itself through all life. Shiva sleeps in stones, stirs in plants, wakes in animals, and realizes himself in man. Everything is Shiva. Nothing exists that is not Shiva. Shiva is that consciousness that is experiencing you right now. As I'm speaking these words, and as you are there listening to them, receiving them, it is all Shiva. And so we are all an aspect of that universal consciousness, right? As human beings, you can realize that. We can transcend the operating system of the ego mind, and perhaps we are the only species that can do that. We have enough consciousness. Our supercomputer of our nervous system and brain can handle enough consciousness that we can unfold that consciousness and realize our universal oneness of being one with consciousness. Awesome. I actually love talking about the more esoteric sides of yoga, as you can see. I'm thinking about maybe doing a second talk every week where we talk about more esoteric stuff, or maybe we'll make the first half really focus on more like therapy and practical oriented things of how to use Yoga Nidra to improve your life, to get off addictions, to internalize your desire, to be able to diffuse stress and tension and anxiety. And then the second half of the class, we can just talk like this, any questions that you have. And if we talk about therapy and very practical stuff, or if we go more abstract and talk about esoteric matters, maybe the second part will be more free form for us. How does that sound? Any quick exercise or tip to bring down sleep quota? I get very less time for my work. So are you're asking, you want to be able to sleep less? Is that what you're asking? Exercise or tip to bring down sleep quota. I get very less time for my work. So it sounds like you're asking how to be able to get less sleep. Is that right? First of all, Yoga Nidra. Did anybody see that coming? Did anybody see that I might answer like that? Yoga Nidra is such an empowering method for anybody who needs deep rest. Whether if it's sleep, insomnia, or you just need to improve your quality of rest so that you can rest deeper and more fully and more completely. Do Yoga Nidra every night before you go to bed. Every night. And because what happens is that by doing any kind of relaxation exercise before going to bed, you're going to relax much deeper. And now you're going to have a much deeper sleep by relaxing first while still awake, right? So do some kind of relaxation exercise in bed every night before going to sleep. And what you'll find, if you can even stay awake a little bit longer than normal, this will help you, because by staying awake and by harnessing awareness, you can go into much, much, much deeper rest. Yes, 1 hour of Yoga Nidra equals 3 hours of regular sleep. But where to start? Because you're learning Yoga Nidra from basic. Okay, here's what I recommend you do. I have probably 20 different Yoga Nidra for sleep sessions on this channel. So you can use any one of those that you feel drawn to. Any Yoga Nidra session will work, but there's also these 3 points, okay? You can memorize, I don't want to give you more than 3 because you can remember 3 things very easily. Number 1, body scan. Number 2, conscious breathing. Number 3, fantasizing. If you can remember those 3 things, you can lead yourself through a Yoga Nidra session and you can get to sleep. Number 1, body scan. You can memorize the body scan sequence pretty quickly. Just by doing Yoga Nidra a few times and having the intention of memorizing it. Have the intent to remember the sequence when you do your next Yoga Nidra session. And then when you're laying in bed, just start with your right hand thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth, fifth, palm of the hand, back of the hand, right wrist, lower arm, elbow, upper arm, shoulder. Go through the whole body that way. And then focus on your breath, counting backwards. Every breath. Here comes our truck. Now the truck is going to leave. Goodbye, truck. Counting backwards from, for example, 18 or 21. 18, 21. That is a perfect number because it doesn't seem like it's too much, but you're not probably going to make it all the way to 0. Yes, I will repeat those 3 things. And then the last one was fantasizing, because what researchers have found is that in order to transition from alpha, it's the other way, from beta to alpha. In order to transition from the fast beta brainwaves to the slower, more relaxed, mellow alpha brainwaves that correspond to deep relaxation and falling asleep, it helps to be able to imagine, to visualize, to fantasize. Engaging the imagination can actually help transition you into beta waves and can help you, I said that wrong again, can help you transition into alpha waves and can help you fall asleep. Okay, so those 3 things again: body scan, conscious breathing, counting backwards every breath from 18 or 21, and then visualize or fantasize. And what I recommend for the visualization or fantasy is go to your personal sanctuary. Have a place in your mind that can be your default sanctuary, your default internal sanctuary that's there in your memory that nobody can take away from you. For example, mine, I'll share with you, mine is my grandparents' cabin that they had on the lake up in the Pacific Northwest. They had a beautiful cabin on the lake, and there was like a dock that the grandkids would play on and sail little sailboats from and things like this. I learned how to sail a boat there. I learned how to fish with my grandfather there. Excuse me. So that's my inner sanctuary. And my grandfather's gone and the house has been sold, but that place is still there in my memory. And I can go there anytime I want. And maybe I'll go do another little adventure or something like this. So that kind of visualizing, that kind of fantasizing, it should be something that captivates you, not something that you just want to think about, but something that really captivates and holds your attention. So if you plan on traveling somewhere in the next 6 months or something, and you're just visualizing what it's going to be like to be wherever you're going to go, maybe you're going to go to Vietnam. So you're seeing all these images of your head and imagining what it's going to be like to be in Vietnam. You know, this is the 3rd component. And if you can do these 3 things, then you can usually fall asleep before you even get past body scan. Most people. The conscious breathing is alternate nostril breathing. What is alternate nostril breathing? It's, well, Nadi Shodhana, but that's when you do it physically with your hands, right? If you're doing it mentally, then we call it Anulom Vilom. Anulom Vilom is mental alternate nostril breathing, and it's really soothing to your mind, not just the brain. It's soothing to the mind. It helps your mind to have equilibrium and to feel balanced. And this helps you to fall asleep. The way you do mental alternate nostril breathing is you visualize that you're breathing in through the left, out the right, in the right, out the left. And it's purely mental. If the breath, you can actually train the breath to actually physically be manipulated through the nostrils like this, but it's not important to do that here. Anulom Vilom is purely mental. So after you do body scan, then you do Anulom Vilom, counting backwards from 18 or 21. And then if you're still awake, then go to your happy place. go to your inner sanctuary and visualize a little adventure for yourself there. So, life is we always have our demands. There's always going to be pressure, and there's always going to be stress. And from time to time, there is crisis. Having a regular meditation practice in your life can really save you, can not only save your sanity and probably save your life in the long run, but it can also help you to stay focused, stay grounded, stay productive every day, to meet your demands and to be able to not only meet your demands and your responsibilities and your duties, but to do what you came here to do, to be able to do your higher purpose as well. So a practice like Yoga Nidra, even if you just do 15 or 20 or 25 minutes, helps to diffuse that nervous tension that we carry around with us, and then otherwise makes us so frayed. It frays our nerves and makes it so that we can't focus, can't concentrate, can't do good work. So in every possible way, not only for your work, not only in your professional life and for productivity, but in your personal life, in your relationships, and especially, of course, in your spiritual life, which is most important because that's the root of your being. The root of our life is the spirit. And so we must have a regular way of nourishing that dimension of our being. You know the importance of taking food every day, right? And if you miss a meal, then you feel like you are not taking proper care of your body, right? We know the value of even interacting with other people. We are social beings. We need to have communities. We need to have families. We need to have friends. We know that, and we take care of our mental health by going out and socializing. But we also need to make sure that we do something every day to nurture and nourish the spiritual dimension of your being. Because that's the root. That is the ground floor. And if you have that deep peace from some kind of spiritual practice that you do, whether if it's just doing puja every day for 5 or 10 minutes, chanting some mantras, or some meditation that you do, or a full yoga session that you might be able to do, whatever it is, having that time every day to nurture the spiritual dimension of your being is vital. If you want to water a tree, where are you going to put water? On the leaves, on the trunk, or on the ground so that it gets to the roots. The mind and the desires and the emotions, these are like the leaves and the flowers and the fruit of our lives. And the body is like the trunk. But our spirit and the psyche, that is the root of our being. And we have to nurture and nourish that level of our being every day, first and foremost. How many hours of sleep? How many hours do you sleep? I see. How many hours do I sleep? So it really depends. For me, I believe in giving myself the amount of sleep that I need. Usually I get about 8 hours. And sometimes if there's more stress, I'll sleep more or less. What I try to do is give my body the amount of sleep that it needs. But as soon as I wake up, I try to get out of bed and not stay in bed, right? So if I wake up, then that means then I'm ready to start the day. Waking up doesn't mean hitting the snooze button. Waking up doesn't mean, 5 more minutes, mom, please. So, but this is something that it's different at different times, because even I go through crisis. We all go through crisis. We are all on this planet. And in the last couple of years, we have all seen things that we never imagined we would see. So we all know crisis. We all know difficulty. We all have stress. Sometimes I can go 6 hours or less, and I can go to sleep at like 2 a.m. sometimes and wake up at 7 a.m. Other times, if there's a lot going on and I have a lot of demands and there's a lot of pressure, I need full 8 hours of sleep. So, don't be too attached to having these kinds of expectations, because, let's say, for example, then you did the math and you said, I sleep 8 hours a day. If I were to sleep 6 hours a day, that would be 2 extra hours every day. That ends up with two, that's 1/12. So that you end up with almost like an extra month every year, an extra month every year. If you can just cut down 2 hours from 8 down to 6, right? I remember doing that math and thinking, oh my God, that's great. I'm going to do that. And there's all these different programs that promise to help you to decrease the amount that you sleep every night. But you know what? I've kind of switched my thinking on that now. I think that we need to be ready to give our bodies and our mind the amount of rest that it needs, and not impose these kinds of limitations or expectations on ourselves. Yes, you can. And there may be times you can achieve that. There may be times that you can sleep easily, just 6 hours. But there will be other times that your body just needs the longer rest. We talk about this with Yoga Nidra because sleep is a huge barrier for Yoga Nidra practitioners, right? Many of you have seen that in the beginning, it's very hard to stay awake in Yoga Nidra. But guess what? It's not only in the beginning. I've been doing Yoga Nidra now for 14, almost 15 years. And in the beginning, yeah, I remember then there was more of a tendency to fall asleep. And then as you become a more advanced practitioner, that's what advanced means, right? You can stay awake longer. But it's not always like that. Sometimes in life, there's more stress, there's more tension, there's more pressure than others. And sometimes you just really need the rest. Sometimes you just really need to sleep. And that's what your body needs. That's what your mind needs. So give it to yourself. And what you'll find is that if you can increase the quality at which you can rest and relax and revitalize yourself, then you'll be able to work so much better. So instead of thinking, how can I sleep less? Instead, think, how can I get better quality of sleep? So that when you do sleep, whatever your body needs, whether if it's 6 or 8 or 9 hours, when you do sleep, you're going to be fully rested when you wake up. You'll have high energy when you wake up. You'll be ready to take on the world. Isn't that really what you want? Isn't really what you want, to be able to wake up jazzed and just full of life and like, okay, let's go. You can definitely do that. Yoga Nidra can help you get there. Doing Yoga Nidra before you go to bed at night, and also doing Yoga Nidra sometime during the day when you're less likely to fall asleep. Learn about your circadian rhythms and find out what time of day you're most awake, and do Yoga Nidra then, so that you can stay awake for a whole session, allowing you to purify your psyche and to get out whatever mental effluence, whatever mental debris is there blocking you, preventing you from being able to have that kind of high energy naturally. There's some dissonance that we are carrying within us. There's something we are repressing that is affecting our mood, that is making us have chronic depression or apathy or melancholy or whatever it might be. And to get to the root of that, we need to be able to do Yoga Nidra or Antarmona meditation. We have to structure silence into our lives so that you can purify this real source of your tension. And when you can do that, now you can sleep whatever you need, but you wake up and you're so full of energy and you're so full of life and you're ready to take on the world. And then it doesn't matter exactly how many hours you sleep, but that you did sleep and you did get the rest that you need. And for that, Yoga Nidra. Okay, well, today we have covered many different topics. I've been talking now for 75 minutes straight. My voice is kind of starting to go, but I just want to say thank you one more time. I want to tell you, my listeners, everybody who listens to this channel, thank you so much for your endless support and encouragement. Thank you for your contributions. Last week, you helped me to make my goal, and I was able to move. It's a little bit dark here in my new place. I will fix that for you by next week. And there's some dogs that bark, but we can live with that, especially when we start talking about how to master inner silence. Thank you, everybody, so much for your endless support and encouragement. With great love and great respect, I thank you all with all my heart. Let's chant Shantipat together. Asato ma sat gamaya. Tamaso ma jyotir gamaya. Mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushtivardhanam Urva Rukamiva Bandhanad Mrityor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. With great love and respect, I thank you with all my heart. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.